At the Cambridge Primate Research Center, an animal rights activist's raid gains access to a scientific research laboratory with the intention of freeing a group of chimpanzees being used in secret experiments. Driven by their fanaticism, the activists decide to release the animals, ignoring the warnings from one of the frightened scientists in charge of the project, who tells them that the primates are infected with an artificial mutant virus that causes a terrible nervous disease, manifesting as uncontrollable aggression and violence. The activists don't care about the warnings and decide to release the chimpanzees. One of them attacks a girl, and her friend pulls it off, but it's too late. The girl is infected with a rabies variant virus. The scientist wants to kill her, but the girl starts killing everyone first. And so it begins. Welcome to Random Recaps. In this video, I am going to recap the movie. Due to the ease of virus transmission, contact with the blood or saliva of an infected person is enough, and the short incubation period, 10 to 20 seconds, the epidemic soon spreads, transforming almost the entire population of England into violent and primitive beings. The protagonist, Jim, wakes up from a coma completely naked in a hospital in London, 28 days after the tragedy that ravaged the country began. Jim shouts throughout the hospital, but no one answers. When he leaves, Jim realizes that the city is deserted and without any trace of inhabitants. Walking through the city, Jim enters an Anglican temple. There, he finds a bunch of corpses. Jim is then attacked by an infected person.
Are you okay?
Several infected people chase him, and suddenly Jim encounters two people who start helping him by throwing Molotov cocktails at the infected and blowing up a gas station. The people take Jim to a refuge in a store at an abandoned London Underground station. They remove their masks and introduce themselves as Selena and Mark. Selena tells him that she was a reporter, explaining how the infection began to emerge first in rural fields, small towns and villages, and finally in urban areas across the country, explaining that the armed forces barricades to protect the big cities didn't work, that there is no government, no police, no army, and that the last thing the radios said before ceasing their broadcasts was that there were reports of cases of infection in Paris and New York, followed by total silence. Jim, desperate, wants to look for his family, although Selena and Mark tell him they are surely no longer alive. But the next morning, the three decide to look for Jim's parents in Deptford. They arrive at Jim's parents' house, where Jim goes upstairs and finds their corpses. A very moved Jim realizes that they opted to commit suicide with a drug overdose, leaving a farewell message to their son written on a photo of him. Mark then tells Jim how his family died. They all ended up infected. They spend the night in the house, and at night Jim lights a candle and goes to the kitchen. Jim remembers the moments with his family, unaware that the candlelight attracts two infected. Mark and Selena appear and save Jim. Selena asks if he was bitten or if any blood got into his mouth, but nothing happened to him. However, Mark suffers a wound on his arm, coming into contact with infected blood, which makes Selena kill him with machete blows. Selena tells Jim to leave before more infected arrive.
Then get them and get dressed. We have to leave now.
So they leave looking for another hideout. On the way, Jim observes Christmas lights lit in a window of the Balfron Tower, and they decide to go to the building. As they begin to climb to the apartment, they hear a loud noise approaching, which turns out to be two other infected. They run up the stairs and meet a man dressed in riot police gear.
Down the corridor, flat 157. Move!
They run to the apartment, asking to be let in. The policeman says to let them in, and thus they are saved from the infected. The guy takes off his mask and introduces himself as Frank, a taxi driver, and his daughter, Hannah, a teenager. Frank is happy and celebrates finding people who are not infected. The next day, Frank tells Jim that they can't stay there as they are running out of resources. Frank shows Jim and Selina that they picked up a signal from the British Army on the radio.
There are others like you. There are other fighters, other survivors. We are soldiers and we are.
Oh my God.
Saying they have the solution to the infection. They announce they are located near Manchester. Frank wants to go there accompanied by Selina and Jim. Selina refuses to go, as they could die trying without any guarantee that the soldiers are there.
Maybe they have a cure.
Maybe they've got nothing at all.
Hannah convinces everyone to go, and they leave in Frank's taxi. They take the dark and underground path because Frank has big balls. But crossing it, a tire blows out. They get out to change the tire, and Jim hears a noise. A horde of rats appears, fleeing from the infected. The group hurriedly puts on the spare tire, and Hannah succeeds just in time, and they manage to escape. They stop at a supermarket and start grabbing everything they can, including liquor. Then they stop to get gasoline. Jim enters a burger joint and finds a bunch of corpses. An infected person attacks him, but Jim kills him. On the way, they stop in a meadow and have a picnic to eat. There, they watch completely healthy horses running. It gets dark, and the group decides to spend the night there. But they can't sleep, except for Selina, who sleeps thanks to sleeping pills. Jim and Hannah take the pill and fall asleep. Jim starts having a nightmare that he is completely alone. Frank notices and wakes him up.
You're having a bad dream, that's all.
The next morning, the group continues on their way. They arrive in Manchester at a kind of military checkpoint. Barricade 42, the supposed place where the soldiers were, but it is deserted and abandoned.
Come on now, dawg. Come on, man.
While exploring, Frank gets desperate for not finding anyone.
We have to go.
Yeah.
Go fucking where?
A drop of blood from an infected crow falls right into Frank's eye, infecting him. Surprisingly, a group of soldiers quickly shoots him and then takes Selina, Jim, and Hannah. The soldiers take them to a mansion where Major Henry West welcomes them and offers food, water, accommodations, and protection 24/7. Selina is saddened because Hannah is now an orphan.
It was okay. It was okay for them, and it was okay for us.
At that moment, Jim kisses her, but then Selina leaves. Jim talks to Henry to ask about the cure.
Well, as I said before, it's here. Though it may not be quite what you imagined.
Henry shows him all the security measures they have to prevent the infected from entering. Henry takes Jim to the backyard and introduces him to the last soldier of his platoon, Soldier Mailer, who got infected 2 days before Jim and his group arrived. They managed to knock him unconscious and chained him in the yard to see how long it takes an infected person to starve to death. Later, the group dines with the soldiers. Suddenly, alarms go off, and all the soldiers go out to kill the infected. After that, a soldier takes Selina's machete and tries to assault her. Jim helps her, and Henry arrives to calm the soldiers. Jim talks to Henry and discovers that Henry is a madman who promised the soldiers women. The radio broadcast was just a trick to lure survivors with women to enslave them as sex slaves, supposedly to restart a new civilization led only by them.
What? What the fuck?
Jim looks for Selina and Hannah and tries to leave the mansion, but they are captured. Sergeant Farrell is the only one who opposes the will of his commander and comrades. While waiting for death, Farrell speculates that not the whole world is infected, only the island of Great Britain, which was quarantined to prevent the virus from spreading to the rest of the world.
Whoa, 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 whoa!
Jim and Farrell are taken to the forest for execution. One of the soldiers kills Farrell and almost kills Mitchell, so they start fighting. At that moment, Jim hides among the corpses and takes the opportunity to escape. Running through the forest, Jim sees a plane passing by and realizes that Farrell's theory is true. Meanwhile, the soldiers forcibly dress Selina and Hannah in red, wanting them to try on the dresses in front of all the soldiers. Making an effort, Selina kisses one of the soldiers, convincing them to leave them alone to try on the dresses. Once alone, instead of trying on the dresses, Selena gives Hannah a pill to make her suffer less. At that moment, the mansion's alarm sounds, but it is Jim who is making it sound on purpose to attract the soldiers. The soldiers look for Jim. Jim manages to kill one of them and takes his weapon. Jim sabotages Henry's jeep to delay his return to the mansion, and some infected come for him, making Henry run away. In the mansion, Jim frees the infected to infect the soldiers. The infected mailer enters through the window and infects one of the soldiers guarding Selena and Hannah. The girls try to escape but encounter Mitchell and his companion.
Aw, for the love of crud!
Seeing that there is an infected person, Mitchell sends his companion to kill him. However, he is killed in the kitchen by the other infected person. They take the girls upstairs, but Hannah, drugged by the pills, goes alone. One of the soldiers tries to escape, but Jim kills him and infiltrates the mansion. Now there are 3 infected soldiers in the mansion. Henry arrives and finds his companion dying. Hannah looks for her father's photo when an infected person arrives. Hannah hides, but fortunately, the infected leaves. Jim, looking for the girls, encounters a soldier out of bullets. Jim jumps out the window while the infected kill the soldier. Mitchell holds Selena hostage and tries to take her away, but Jim arrives to save her by poking Mitchell's eyes.
Gangster. That's gangster.
Selena thinks Jim is infected, but he isn't. Selena is relieved and kisses Jim. At that moment, Hannah enters the room and hits Jim.
But I thought he was biting you.
The 3 leave the mansion and head for Frank's taxi. But there they find an angry Henry who shoots Jim. Hannah drives the car towards the mansion so the infected can attack Henry. After that, the 3 escape, leaving the mansion behind. Jim wakes up in a cabin in Cumbria, recovered from his wounds. After getting up, he finds Selena sewing some fabrics, and then Hannah comes in, announcing that a reconnaissance plane is approaching. The 3 go out with the fabric spelling hello, so that the plane sees them, and that's how the movie ends.
Do you think he saw us this time?
But wait, there are 3 alternate endings. In the first alternate ending, Jim is wounded by the shot from Commander Henry West, and Selena and Hannah take him to the hospital, but the resuscitation maneuvers don't work, and the 2 walk away, armed, through the deserted hospital. In the second ending, it's an extended version of the alternate ending where Jim dies in the hospital, but here Jim, for some reason, dreams of himself riding a bicycle. The third ending wasn't even filmed. It was only partially edited in the early drafts of the script. In this ending, Hannah and Selena are seen fleeing the mansion in a military truck, finding Jim wounded at the origin of the radio signals that Frank talked about so much. Jim gets into the military truck, and the 3 head towards an unknown place, possibly the country house that appears in the final version. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. See you next time.